Good morning, YouTubers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world. Rat lines. We love rat lines. We got the foremast done on one side. And we got the main mast done on the bottom. Now we're gearing up for the top. Yesterday I had some sticks jammed into the crow's nest. Keep that paper from moving around. I think that should be lower. Guy's got to reach awful high to get to that, don't he? See if I can open that back up a little bit there. Yeah, the scale on this model is 48:1, so compared to the San Juan, people on this deck would be almost twice the size as the little people on that San Juan deck. They had a little bit too much slack in that first ladder step. So if you hold both sides and pull backwards to the left on that, you can get the slack to pull up. I like to get the knot snug by going to the left slightly and then pull the head of the knot around to the right so it lays flat on the front of the shroud. So there's the first one. I'm gonna grab another stick and put it in behind the paper there. That stick, keep that paper from going back. So I pre-cut a bunch of these threads. I start from the back left, feed to the right, and then do the granny knot from the underside, double granny knot. That way when I pull it tight, the right side of the knot is going toward the next rope. And that's a little different on the clove hitch knot that we're doing now. This is the clove hitch knot. We want to go around the front and come over the top of the rope coming from the left. and then go around, come out of the bottom and pull through. So go around, see we're on the top, and now we're going to go around, but we got to go through this loop, get that close to snug, and then pull it tight. So this just goes on and on for hours. And I can use the lines on the notebook paper, keep my spacing even, so I'm just below the line here. I want to try to stay just below each line as I go up. You could set it where the paper gets cut in the right spot and then you're right on the line as you go up. And you want to do it where the paper and the lines and the ropes and everything are directly in front of your line of vision. Because if you're looking down on it from up above, then it's going to be easy to get off on the lines. So we just keep going like that. One knot at a time. If you get too far along, I'm going to put some glue on the outside knots before I cut the tails off. So there's the foremast all tied up with the rat lines. Looks like a spider web. And you can see this little group of rat lines here. That as the sailor's climbing up, instead of coming up underneath the crow's nest, which would be kind of hard to get on the crow's nest if you come up under here, he can come up the front here and get on. So we got that one rat lined all the way to the top. Now we're gonna move over and start rat lines on the mizzen mast, the bottom and the top. And we get that done, we'll be done with one side of the ship. We still got all the rat lines on the other side to do. if we got that or not. Thought I turned the camera on. But if not, we've got another clip here. We can edit. Well, we got to cut the tails on this now, and then we'll start on the top part. And then we'll be done with one side of the ship. Woohoo! Okay, we just finished the first group of rat lines on the starboard side of the ship. Port side is all done. Finished that a little while ago. It's the last section we finished there, up to the top crow's nest on the port side. So now we got to do this section here to the top crow's nest on the foremast to the port, starboard side. So this was a little different than the other side because I ran out of my button thread. This is 75% poly and 25% cotton. And not enough here to do the rest of the rat lines. So I didn't want to use the stuff that come in the ship because it's too thin. Now, I do have some other button thread here. We call it carpet thread. Extra strong. This looks pretty old. 19 cents. Yeah, styrofoam. Button and carpet thread. It doesn't say the percentage, but I've been yanking on it with the pliers on one side and a good grip on the other, and it only broke one time, and that's right where the pliers were crimping it at. So this is going to work, and it's fat enough. The other stuff was too thin that came in the ship for rat lines. So this does look almost as thick as the shroud rope, but it's not. The shroud rope is 0.8 millimeters, and I measured this rat line rope with the calipers, and it's 0.5 millimeters. So the stuff that came in the ship that's brown is 0.15 millimeters, which is really thin. And we use that on the sails and a lot of other places, but for the rat lines, you get more definition if they're a little thicker looking. The only problem with the thicker stuff is it's easily stretched to create a fray, so we got to be real careful how we tie the knots. But we're making good progress. We're on to the starboard side now. And we got 1 of 6 sets done. Woohoo! Getting up to the last few on the foremast top crow's nest rat line ladder. See, this thread is nice and thick. If I pull that knot tight just a little to my left before I pull to my right to get the head of the knot to go face to the right, because the next tie off is on the right. So I found if I put my tweezers on both sides of the knot and just sort of trap it there but not pinch it, and I'm almost pulling straight out so I can get the distance between those ropes I want, the shrouds, and then pull to the right really hard to lock the knot. And different threads are going to act different. See, I got a little bit too much space there, so if I pull to the left, it will pull up some of that space before I pull to the right. I'll try to get it even. This part of the ladder will be just enough room for a sailor to get his foot in between the shrouds to step up to the next level. So we want to try to keep that shroud spread enough so there's a little defined space in between each shroud. Over the top, under the bottom, and through. We don't want the tail through there, just the leading edge. Let's see how I trap that a little bit to get it to close up the knot. Check my distance, then pull it to the right to make the lead of the knot heading toward the right. It will lead to the front facing you if you don't force it to the right a little bit. See how the rope is sticking straight out the front before it's tight? And I'm really close in there, but I don't know if I want that close, so I'm going to pull to the right to pull the knot tight. And see how that opened up the space just a little bit in between the shrouds. The higher you go, the more critical this gets, because you want enough space in there to spread those shrouds out enough where the sailor can get his feet in there and his hands. So we got at least two more, eh? Maybe three. Yeah, at least three more, I guess. I think I cut 17 rat lines for this climb, and I think I'm going to need 18. I'm using the pliers on this first pull because I want to get that knot really tight at the right height. And it's not a clove hitch knot, it's that double granny. So the double granny doesn't cinch like a clove hitch. Sometimes the double granny sort of balls up and doesn't want to close in the right fashion. And that's why you got to really put some force on it. And that tail sticking out to the left is too short to hold on to with your fingers. Pull that first knot down a little bit. I got a counterweight down on the bottom, and I got some sticks in the crow's nest holding the back of the paper so it doesn't move around. And of course these 45-degree tweezers are really helpful when you're doing this, as opposed to a pair of straight ones. Because I can tuck behind there and pull it out without putting a lot of stress on the shroud. If you pull that knot tight to the right too soon, it'll make that step in the rat line too long, and it'll push the shrouds apart. There's a fine line there between pulling it tight straight ahead of you or a little bit to your left, and then final cinching to the right to lock the knot. Now we got to cut one more. Yeah, at least one more. After we get this last one, we'll decide whether or not to do another. This notebook paper for this scale, this is 1/48 scale. I think this notebook paper spacing is just right, because the size of a human being on this scale is almost, I would assume, almost as big as a plastic army man, like you see the little army men, probably 2 or 3 inches tall. So the scale, which I need to do a little research on that. Now I pulled that one to close it up a little bit, and that's why I used the back of the tweezers and pulled on this side. That way it would pull that together a little bit, because it was too much space in there. I want to try to keep this consistently getting smaller and smaller as it goes up. And here hard to see, but I'm going to pull to the right to cinch it, to open that space up to almost the same as the first space there. And we'll have to do the same on this one. Yeah, so we pretty much got even spacing above the rat line in between the shrouds. So let's pull this off, or at least get that one clamp out of the way. So we can, yeah, I think we need one more, eh? Because if a guy's climbing up here and he is this tall, which I'm assuming that would be his height, he needs another step in order to get up there on that nest. So we'll give him one more step. And then that'll be it for this week. Oop. And then we'll try to make that same spacing that we did on the last one. So we can scoot that down out of the way a little bit. Get this on top. Whenever I'm working on the ship, I use a pair of reading glasses that are 3x zoom. Now I want to grab it with the pliers, pull like this to get that to spread out a little bit, all to the right, after I got the knot close to cinched. We'll do the same on these last two here. It's close. Grab it. I go to the right. See how much space there is in there as I go to the right more. I'm going to stick my finger up in there. Pull straight to make it close up a little bit, and then go right to open it up. Might have been open too much there, but that's okay. This is the last step. We want it to open up a little bit more than give the sailor something to get his foot in. Straight. And now I drop my pliers on the floor. To the right, there, that opened it up, so it's almost more than this one below it, but it does, when you tie the knots that way, you can see how you can control how much spread you get between the shrouds as you pull the knot tight. So now I'm going to just put a little dab of glue on all the outside edges, and after that sets up, we'll nip them off. Nip off all them tails. That makes the foremast done ratline wise. I noticed when I was looking at the prints for these top groups of ratlines that we're working on, that they got 3 ropes going up to that stiffener spot, but no ratlines in there. So that's something we'll have to add, but it won't be ratlines tying. It'll just be from these 3 arms, because each one of these even the back one's got 3 and there's only 2 here. I wonder why that doesn't show 3 there. I know there's only 2 on that back one. And that's the way the pre-cut pieces came. That's an example of why the plans don't match. So I do have a little hole in there. I think I might drill a bigger one closer to the end and drill and run some of that same thread up to the top. This is a pretty good thread here, I think. But that'll be the end of the standing rigging on the forward mast. I'm pretty sure after I go digging in the prints I'm going to find something else I missed, but from what I know so far, we got all the stuff done on the back side, except for these little ones we're going to add up here. And we got one set done on the starboard side. So next week we'll work on those little ones, and we'll finish doing the rat lines on the main mast and the mizzen mast. But for 1 week's progress tying rat lines, total of 848 knots. Can't imagine there's that many, but when I count them up, I did it twice just to see, because I had said in last week's video it was 960. I said, man, that's an awful lot of knots. Something ain't right. So I recalculated and counted them up again. Right at 848 knots for the rat lines. If that's not encouraging, I don't know what is. Thanks for watching. Wood model ship.